Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's webinar. My name is Dan Nagley. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs and the Executive Director of the UNT Career Center. We're here to share industry and hiring insights into a variety of fields that UNT alumni are actively pursuing after graduation. We have a variety of guest panelists today. So our agenda for today, first up, we're going to have a message from our president, Neil Smatras. And then we'll move into the question and answer period with our panelists. And finally, we'll share more about the Get Hired Grads initiative and all of the resources that have been created. As part of your registration, we'll send you all the relevant links after the event, including a link to the webinar recording when it's available. Hopefully that'll happen early in April. And you'll be able to find that on the gethired.unt.edu website. Now let's get started with a message from President Smatras.
Hello, I'm Neil Smatras, the president of the University of North Texas. Congratulations, your college journey is nearing the end, and it's almost time to launch your professional career. You may be feeling a mix of emotions about what comes next: stress, relief, nervousness, and excitement, and that's perfectly okay. Your UNT family is here to help you through the Get Hired Grad program. During the weeks leading up to graduation, UNT's Get Hired initiative is offering extra support to help you boost your resume and prepare for your job search. You can develop supplemental skills, have your resume reviewed by our alumni network, get insider tips from industry professionals, and even receive one-on-one help with the job search. These are just a few of the examples of what's available through the Get Hired initiative. We've outlined the 7 steps to career success and have numerous resources posted online to help you best market yourself to prospective employers. Visit gethired.unt.edu to learn about the many ways UNT can help you dazzle employers and land the perfect role.
All right, great. I just realized I jumped right past our agenda for the day. So bear with me. So you just saw the message from the president. We'll move into the questions from our panel for our panelists next. And then finally, we'll wrap up the day with the Get Hired Grads initiative, more information about that and all the resources. So sorry, I jumped the gun on the video a little bit. We want to launch another poll at this point. And so Jeanette, if you can pull up the next poll, want to find out what everyone's status is, all the student statuses are that are in here. So if you can answer the poll question. So the top is, I haven't started searching, but I'm hoping this session will help me. I hope that it will help you too. I hope that we all get started searching because we're getting close to the end here for many of you graduating students. So there's a close second that I have started searching for jobs, which is great. All right, so no matter where you are in your job search, whether it is that you're just going to get started searching or you've been searching for a while, hope that this program will really help you and put you in the right position to find an opportunity for yourself. And so we're going to get started with the panelist presentation or the panelist question and answer. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Dr. Hope Garcia. Dr. Garcia is the Assistant Vice President of Student Affairs for Student Services at our regional campuses. Hope, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. And I specifically heard the president say that our students are going to dazzle employers. So hopefully all the things that our panelists are going to share with you guys will help you do that and prepare for you. So not all of our panelists are going to answer every single question, but they are prepared. All of them are prepared, and they'll just pop up and here and there answer as they can, because this part goes really fast. This is the part where sometimes we wish we had 3 hours to do it. So I'm just going to.
I forgot to introduce our panel.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
That would be great, right?
Sure.
All right. So from UNT, we have Dr. Yunhua Ding, who is a professor of Information Science Department in the College of Information. Dr. Jim Bednarz, who is a senior lecturer and advisor with the Biology Department in the College of Science. Dr. Liz Potter, who is a professor and chair of the Chemistry Department in the College of Science. Susan Bradley, who is a career coach at the Career Center and specifically focuses on the College of Science students. Laura Garza, who is a career coach for the Career Center and is specifically focuses on the College of Engineering and College of Information. And then Liz Ford, who is the Assistant Director of International Student and Scholar Services. That's the folks from UNT that are here with us today. Now we're going to move on to some of our employer partners that are here with us. Robin Falcone. Robin is the U.S. Campus Relations Manager. She's also a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Champion for HCL America. And she just so happens to be a Career Center Advisory Board member. So welcome, Robin. Betsy Montanez is a University Relationship Manager and a Veterans Advocate for the FDM Group. And so welcome to Betsy. And then next is Julie Chickering Albert, Vice President, Human Capital with NTT Data. Julie is a UNT alumnus and also a Career Center Advisory Board member. So welcome to Julie. And last but not least is Ricky Wolf, Assistant Manager, Texas Technology Center with Wipro Limited.
Thanks for Cole for telling me that it was echoing, because maybe I eliminated that by muting myself. So I appreciate the chat because it gives us some tips of how you guys are experiencing this. So I'm going to start with the first question, and everybody can probably answer this in a short way. We might be able to get through all panelists for this question, so we'll just see how it will go. So briefly, tell us, what advice do you have for graduating students trying to find a job right now? And remembering this advice is for students and the panelists who are in the STEM areas. So anything science, technology, engineering, math.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. So I made some notes. There are some really key things I think that you can do right now to sort of set yourself apart. So I think first and foremost, remember that you are interviewing the companies that you're speaking with as much as they are interviewing you. We often get so excited about going on interviews that we forget that. Come prepared with questions. It's okay if they do answer those questions. Use it as an opportunity to show that you were listening. So, if they answer that question, say to them, I was going to ask about benefits, but I heard you say, and then repeat that to them. Research the behavioral questions that are applicable to your job and use your job descriptions to kind of figure out what those were. And finally, my best advice is to always ask for the job. Always, always, always. Assume that you have that role and ask what the next steps are. Close the deal. You tell I used to recruit sales.
And Robin, just some feedback from the chat is that your voice is going in and out a little bit, but we got it. But just for the next time, maybe check that out.
I'll speak louder, definitely.
And I'll switch it over to Julie.
All right, thanks so much. So my advice is to use all of your resources. So the fact that you're on the call here today and using the Career Service Center, that is, that's step one. But all of the relationships, professors, friends, family, actually know someone that she was at a concert standing next to a gentleman and led to a conversation, and she got an internship that led to a job. So don't be shy about don't be shy about letting people know that you're looking for something, and have your elevator pitch ready to go, describing what what you want to do. So that's would be my piece of advice on finding a job.
And then Dr. Slaughter.
Yeah, a couple things that I would say from my perspective. I see a lot of our students in the chemistry department going out there into what looks like an uncertain market. Don't box yourself in. Don't put yourself in too narrow of a niche. So if you feel like, well, there aren't that many options open to me because my major is very specific, I bet you have other skills that employers are going to value. Maybe it's technology skills, maybe it's interpersonal skills, communication, but you never know. Read the job descriptions, make sure you customize your resumes, and put the things in there that they may be looking for, and cast a broad net. That's my advice.
Thanks. And we'll hop over to Betsy.
Yeah, so I mean, we've already talked about networking, which is really what Julie wrapped up in a nutshell, right? That's networking. And, you know, I was going to talk a little bit more about not casting that wide net. And basically, if you're never heard of a company, don't brush it off. This is actually probably the best opportunity for you to look at some of these small boutique size agencies, because they're going to be able to put more of their resources and efforts into training you. So, and another nice way to look at it is, if you haven't heard of the company, that probably means that the other 70% of your fellow students that are just starting their search maybe didn't either. So you're not competing against as many applicants. So go far and wide, apply to the companies you've heard of, and look into the ones that you never have.
Perfect. And Dr. Bednarz?
Yeah, I wanted to just reinforce what has already been said. Network, network, network. It takes some time and effort. And ideally, we've already started that process with fellow students and faculty members. And if you didn't, try to get the courage to start networking. And it's sort of a scary thing, especially if you're a little bit of a shy person. And if you're a graduating senior right now, I still think it's not too late to establish a connection, network with some of the faculty members. I know in these Zoom classes, it's tough. Number one, I always turn on your camera when you're in lecture and try to answer the faculty members' questions the best you can. And you actually start to establish a relationship, and then go see him or her in the office hours and talk to them, ask them questions about their course. And if you have a good connection, you might even ask things like, you tell me about your research a little bit. Again, you don't want to overdo it. You want to keep it concise, but establish a relationship. And then they might have, hey, this person is really on the ball, and there's an opportunity, and I'm going to send it your way, Mary. So again, network, network, network.
And Ricky?
Yeah, I'd like to go off of that. I'm a big business card guy myself, a little old school. We do take resumes, but occasionally those get lost sometimes, and sometimes we can't hold on to them depending on your international status. So sometimes business cards is a great way to keep track of people, and it's a really great first impression. And also, to tag along with casting the net, if you see a job description and it looks a little intimidating, it's okay, go for it. You never know who else is in the applicant pool.
Okay, I think that's everybody for that question. So thanks to the panelists for that. I'm going to piggyback off of something that Dr. Slaughter suggested in putting those skills on your resume. So question for you all is, what are 3 most valuable skills for someone to have to be successful in this kind of work? And then how do they describe that on their resumes? So sometimes we're just putting bare bones, I graduated, I've had these 2 jobs on the resume, but how do I get those skills? What are they? How do I get them? And then how do I translate them onto my documents? Julie.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the resume part of this because in HR and with campus recruiting, I've seen a lot of resumes, and I will apologize in advance. My dog, you may hear my dog with a squeaker toy. So one of the things that I see does make a difference is a short 2 to 3 sentences of kind of what your personality, what are your strengths, what do you want to do? So some of those key things that you really want to highlight about what you can bring to the company. If you can tailor that to the company, to the job description, and then in your what you put underneath, that should support the things that you highlight in that introductory sentences. If you're interviewing, go back to that. So consistency, that what you have on your resume is what you're representing in person, whether it's in person or on via Zoom or other video means.
And Dr. Slaughter.
So I'm in the sciences, so a lot of the students tend to think they need, specific scientific lab skills. But what I hear over and over from employers is it's more kind of soft skills. And so 3 that I hear a lot is being a team player, problem solving skills, and communication, especially communicating your own abilities and strengths.
And I will echo that as being on the this side of employing and wanting to employ. I'll echo those 3.
Okay, and Susan, good input here.
Yes, I was just going to highlight the importance of flexibility and adaptability. Science and technology are speeding up so incredibly rapidly, and it's so exciting. But people who think I can go into a particular position and be expected to do that same thing for a while, anything you can do on your resume or in the interview to show that you're able to really roll with changes and be adaptable, be flexible, that you have that inquiring mind and that energy towards change, I think is one of those important soft skills that can really help differentiate you.
Okay. Betsy.
Yeah, to echo off of Susan, right? We're looking for that well-rounded person. And as Dr. Slaughter said too, we're looking for those soft skills. And sometimes I think those are a little hard to communicate on resumes. We're so worried about all the technical skills. I think the way to highlight that you're well-rounded is add your volunteer work, especially if the volunteer work is outside of your field of study. Add some hobbies, make sure the hobbies are appropriate, but add those hobbies. Again, show us that you're more than just this scientific certification that you have, that you're a well-rounded person, and then you're going to add to the team and be a team player.
And we'll go to Robin and then Laura.
So a lot of what everyone is saying is true. In addition to that, collaboration is really important. So we all work in virtual environments. If you can showcase how you've worked on projects, how you've become a leader or showcased your leadership skills, that's really advantageous. Additionally, a lot of us work in global companies. So if you can showcase how you've worked across different nationalities or different with a diverse team, that's really an important skill to have, to be able to bring together a lot of different types of individuals. I think that continues to be something that will just continue to grow, and it's a really unique skill that you can showcase. You can show that on your resume by, again, it can be through leadership in school, through projects, through programs. I love the idea of adding volunteerism. There's a lot of different ways. It also showcases your personality. So sometimes we tend to think of technology people as, like this. And in our particular world, we need tech people who can be client facing. And that's another way to showcase that as well.
Laura, you can go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to echo what I've heard from Susan and Robin and Julie and Betsy. Networking, especially if you're on the quiet side, introverted, is really an important skill to have when you're searching for a job. Networking, those soft skills, which on your resume, you can, focus those bullets on how you use your superpowers. I mean, that's really important. Anybody can put their soft skills on their resume, but if you could take one of the ones that are, most prominent with your personality and explain that in a bullet, it's going to register, I think, with the reader. So networking, be really curious, be that lifelong learner, not only in the classes that you are in right now, but go out and learn programming languages on your own. And there's, so many websites where you can do that for free. And then also problem solving, especially on your resume. Tell us how you, came across a problem, how you solved it, whether it was yourself or with a team, especially. So I think those are 3 skills that students and graduates should kind of strive for when they're searching for jobs.
And I want to ask you so let's talk, we've all given really good examples of how to document that on the resume, and let's see somebody actually gets noticed noticed out of the stack of 400 names. How do you want then that person that you might extend an interview to come across in the interview that gives me new information? Because I see your piece of paper, I see your resume. Do you want them to kind of reiterate information that's on the resume, or do you want to see something new and different come to life? What are you looking for that's going to pop out in the interview that is different or similar than the person that you saw on paper? And I don't know if we've got new people raise hands, but Julie, let's start with you.
Okay. So I mentioned it in the answer to the last question. So you do need to be consistent in the interview with what you have on paper. But some of the things that I've come across is we see some great candidates on paper, but the enthusiasm and it doesn't come through. And interviewing is hard. It is really hard. It is really hard via Zoom. And you really have to, this is where on Zoom, like I can see my face, I can see my facial expression. So, if you're not real expressive, sometimes you're gonna have to practice in being overly expressive. Even you may feel a little uncomfortable, but it's really important that I had one of my own referrals, great candidate. He completely bombed our interview because he just didn't seem interested, when in reality, I knew he was. And so it's be enthusiastic, be interested. So the questions that a lot of the interview types are behavioral. So the key thing is to provide an example that's being asked. That is it's okay to pause to think about that. The other thing is if it is behavioral, use different examples to show different experiences that you have. So I'll let someone else go now.
So not just, yes, I've done that before, but yes.
You have to give examples. Yeah, bring it to life. And the other thing is, what were the results? So if it was a project, if it was something that, what were the results of what you did? So that shows that you can deliver value as an employee.
I'm glad we're on this topic because some of our students, they work really hard to get an interview and then they got it. And then that's not the place to fall short. So I appreciate the people who still have their hands raised. So we're going to go over to Ricky.
Yes, thank you. I would definitely agree with what Julie had to say. Be optimistic, be positive. Also be proud of your achievements, but not be arrogant. So show a little bit of that hard work and dedication while also showing some humility. That shows that you have both the technical expertise and then also you have some of that emotional intelligence too.
Great. And then we'll go to Betsy and then Robin.
The first thing I thought about was be your authentic self. Don't try to be anything that you're not. We mentioned this earlier. You're interviewing the employer as well. And if you start to act the way you think they want you to act, they're going to find out your true self later on. And then we all find out you're not a good fit. And that's just not good for anyone. So I always tell people, be your authentic self. And if that interviewer just feels that, you're not going to be the right fit for the company, then maybe that's their loss. We make mistakes too. So just be yourself and you're going to feel that connection with that recruiter. And you're going to say to yourself, this is where I want to be. And the recruiter is going to tell you, you know what? We want you part of this team as well. So I would definitely say that. And then the one thing I want to say too is go to your career office and practice. Mock interviews are so key. That is the place you get to mess up and have somebody tell you in your safe space and be like, nope, maybe you talk too much with your hands. Maybe you don't talk enough with your hands, right? So this isn't easy. It really is hard. And like anything, practice, you study hard for your exams, you have to practice hard for your interviews. Go to your career offices, take advantage. You're all here already. That tells me you're already thinking about your careers. Mock interview, mock interview.
And then Robin.
So I've been doing this for so very, very long. I think we forget that it is stressful. And so the thing about behavioral interview questions, and so many employers use these now, often they're really more about how you respond to them than the answer itself. They're trying to understand, can you tell a story? Can you relate? How do you think on your feet? I told this in another session. I can't recall exactly which it was. We're talking a lot these days, but as I said, I used to recruit for sales, and they would ask the question, how many golf balls can you fit into a bus? Nobody knows the answer to that. And the thought process was they wanted you to ask more questions. What size are the golf balls? How big is the bus? You know, all of these things that should be going through your head instead of sort of freaking out about how many actual golf balls there were. It was to understand how well do you work under pressure and those kinds of things. So my suggestion to you is to stop, take a pause. It's perfectly fine to say, may I pause for a moment and think about that instead of just responding with an initial reaction to things. So don't react, respond. And then take a moment to think about the STAR method, the situation, the task, what was the action that you took, and then what was the response. So make it a story, and don't extend it very long, but make it interesting. And don't be afraid to show your personality. So I think there was a question, how do you motivate yourself to do something when it's not something that's really very interesting? And I told a student recently, tell them, I make lists, I prioritize, and then I reward myself with a cupcake. It kind of gives a little bit of it shows that you're a fun person and that, you can make light of some things. We all have to do things that we're not particularly happy about sometimes, but we get through them because we know that they're important, and, you can understand the jest in things, something like that, but make it your own, and just understand that this is a muscle that you must exercise. So someone said earlier that, you may not know anything about that company. So initially you may back away from it. I am going to suggest to you that you take that interview, especially early in your career. You may find that particular role wasn't a fit for you, but you may make a connection within a company where there's another role that's perfect for you, or you may make a connection to another organization or another role. And it is a muscle that you must exercise. And so you'll get better, and you'll think, oh, I wish I'd said that differently. And then you'll learn, and it will get you to the next step. So I think that those are amazing things that you can do to just get better at it, right? Thank you.
And Dr. Bednarz to close us out with this particular question, and then I'll move to ones that have come through from our guests.
I'm going to make a suggestion about an interview. Every interview that I've been involved with, whether I'm interviewing a candidate, job candidate, or whether I'm the candidate, is at the end of the interview, the person that's interviewing will ask, do you have any questions for us? Often there's a team. It is, in my opinion, it is absolutely vital that you have questions, okay? If you've done a marginal job up to this point in the interview, you can salvage an interview by having a good conversation around questions you ask. So before you enter that interview, you should have already thought down, wrote out questions. You don't want to bring a piece of paper. You want to sort of get them in your head. But, get a lot of questions in your head. During the course of the interview, there might be other questions that come to mind. And when they ask that final question, do you have any questions for us? Then you ask those questions, ask about the process. How do you work as a team, or do you address a problem individually and then get together as a team? Get that conversation going. Okay, that shows you're inquisitive and interested. You can really salvage an interview by getting good questions and interacting with your interviewers. So really important. Have some questions ready. Ask questions.
And I would just add to that once again, if they do answer your questions, just reiterate with the answer. It just shows that you've been listening, and there may be something else that they can add to it. It's okay to have that dialogue. Even if they answered all your questions, you can sort of adjust those a bit.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to move to a couple of questions that are a little bit related to each other. So we'll couple them together. Some of you mentioned that there are multinational companies to work for. In our student population, we have multiple nations represented as well. So of course, some of those students come to us with H-1 visas or F-1 visas. And so Liz, this might be something that you can help answer to get us going, and some others might have some answers too. But how would an H-1B student go about looking for companies that might accept them? They're open to those kinds of hires. And then if F-1 students, if asked, are you authorized to work in the US? What does that question mean? That's often very daunting on many applications. How do you answer that appropriately? And anyone else who has something to add to that, but we'll start with Liz from our international office.
Sure. So if you are looking for a company to sponsor you for an H-1B visa, that is something that you'll just have to kind of look around for, because that is very company specific, whether they are going to do that or not. But to answer the question of, for F-1 students, what do I say if I'm authorized to work in the US? If you are approved for OPT, optional practical training, the answer is yes, you are authorized to work in the US, and you're authorized to work for the entire period that you're approved for. And for STEM students, that means you're also eligible for the 2-year STEM extension. So for a total of 3 years of work authorization in the US, where your employer has to do little to nothing for that. There is no sponsorship involved. They don't have to fill out any paperwork, with the exception of your STEM OPT approval. They will have to help you complete the I-983 training plan, but it's a very kind of fill in the blank form. Usually the HR department at companies will have seen it before. So there's really not a lot of work, and that might be something that you would have to discuss with an employer who maybe is not familiar with OPT. But your answer is yes, I'm authorized to work once I have that OPT approval.
Okay. And I want to try to get through 2 more questions. Did anybody want to answer anything else on that? We have a few more minutes to try to get through a couple more things. So yeah, Susan, did you want to add something? Okay.
I would just say, don't be bringing that up early in the conversation. Sell them on what you bring. International candidates bring so much to the table. And so have the conversation about what you bring before you start asking, do you sponsor? And I know sometimes it throws you for a loop because the application might ask you, but if you're at a career fair or something, don't go up and say, do you sponsor? Get them interested in you. Then they can take the next step of, okay, well, what's required to have you? Now that I know I want you, what do I need to do? There's also a great resource called myvisajobs.com, which gives a lot of information about companies who are top sponsors of OPT candidates, H-1B candidates. And you also can go in and find information about the people within those companies who have submitted that paperwork. So if an interview starts to become all about like, well, OPT and how do I process, you can, if you work with your career coach, you can kind of take in the International Students Office, take a little bit of that out of the interview and focus on your skills. And there are resources that can help you migrate that conversation away from the interview and onto the resources who can best handle it. I know it's tricky, but don't be discouraged. There's a lot of resources that UNT provides to help you in that situation.
Thanks, Susan. I found that quickly on my browser and added it in the chat. So if anybody finds that helpful, thanks for sharing that. Okay, my other question is about, all right, we've been talking about all the advice. All the panelists here, do you have some sort of a quick thing to share? And guests, students that are listening, consider this panel your current best friend who would be willing to tell you when there's lettuce in your teeth, right? These people you want in your life. So for the panelists, what is the one thing that can just knock somebody off your list? And it usually happens inadvertently. It happens by mistake. And so this is where, no one puts lettuce in their teeth on purpose. So we make mistakes every day. I shouldn't have said it that way. I should have listed something different. So is there some sort of piece of advice that you don't want to see? I see this happen in resumes. I see this happen in interview. I see this happen in the way they treat the front desk person. What is the thing that really tips you off that I was thinking about you, but now I'm not thinking about you anymore? Betsy, do you want to start us off?
Oh, yes, because I'm reviewing resumes right now. And two things that stood out to me recently was when asking, what are you looking for in your next career, or why you're leaving your current position, and whatever that position is, whether that be a professional position or a internship or volunteer. And, I see, oh, well, I've learned everything there is to learn where I'm at now. So I want to go somewhere else to grow in my career. And I'm like, there's no such thing. I haven't learned everything there is to learn in any of my positions. So be very careful with that, saying that, I'm going to leave because they've taught me. So are you telling me that I'm going to teach you everything I know and then you're going to leave me too? I don't like that, and then the other thing I would say to be very careful is about being critical about your university, about your professors, about a previous position. The interview or even in your resume, that's not an opportunity for you to be critical about other things. You really want to stay positive about if this was a challenge, great. Where did you find the opportunity in that challenge? But if you start speaking negatively about whether it is a classmate or a professor or a project, that's telling me that you're probably going to do the same thing if something doesn't go your way here. Keep that out of your resumes, keep that out of your interviews.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Ricky, followed by Julie, then Robin.
Yeah, that sense of negativity, yeah, we pick up on that pretty quick. Yeah, don't bash any other professors or previous companies that you worked for. And during the interview, unless we're asking you yes or no type of questions, we expect a little bit more than just a one sentence, one line answer. Kind of shows the vibe that maybe you're not very interested, or your critical thinking skills are a little lower than what we expected. Also, we usually have a multi-tier interview process. So usually the first one is with a recruiter. The second one is the technical interview. And then the last one is with HR. So many times we'll have a very successful technical interview, but then coming to the last interview with HR, if they can't verbally communicate or they get too arrogant, we can stop the process right there. So always be gracious, be positive, and have fun.
Okay, Julie.
Yes, I'm going to echo on with what Ricky and Betsy said. Every person that you come in contact with a company, whether it's the screening, the person recruiting screening, they're interviewing you just like you're interviewing them. So every interaction and every email should be professional, positive. And again, on the positive, then when I hear someone talk about negatively about a project team member or someone that they worked with, that just is immediate, because if you're saying negative things in an interview, that's, when you get to the workforce, that's just going to get exponentially worse. And I think, Jim, you said, I think it was you said, always have a question, always have questions. So that is when you get like, do you have any questions? The answer is no. That's to me, that it's an indication that they're not really have done enough research and they're not really interested to want to find out more.
We have about 5 minutes left.
Robin.
I'll just really quickly say that I like to see candidates running towards something versus running away from something. And if they've not done any research on the organization or the role, that's a really big red flag for me.
Okay, and then Dr. Bednarz, and then I'll have my last question.
Okay, real quickly, the number one killer for me is a statement that suggests a racist or sexist attitude. You be dead. So be careful both in your written and in your interview. to avoid anything that's suggestive along that line.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
Okay, and my last one is about, we all have talked about networking, but I think if somebody just tells me go network and I leave my front door, what does that mean? Where do I go to do that word that you keep speaking of? Who do I contact? Specifically, some students have also asked, how do I get into research? So is that avenue different or similar to students who are going straight into business? And then in that conversation, does GPA ever play a role? Do you say it? Do companies care? Should I not say it? Should I throw it in there? So anything on how do I start with networking? Are there websites? Are there places I should go to meet people? Do I find them in the grocery store or do I go to associations? Where do I start with that? Liz.
So I was just going to jump in and mention something I hadn't heard yet, but personally, I have gotten jobs this way is through professional organizations. They often have student arms of those as well. So if you have a particular professional organization that's within your area, your industry, you might look into that. Again, that's just kind of my plug for that because it has worked for me.
Great. Dr. Bednars?
As far as networking, try to connect with your faculty. And again, if you're a graduating senior, I think it's still not too late. Your peers, and ideally, if you've gotten involved in extracurricular activity, sports clubs, those are excellent places to start networking. And it's not too late. Even after you graduate, you can get involved in organizations and form associations with some of your faculty members.
Okay. Dr. Slaughter?
Yeah, so the question of research came up. That's something that you usually want to plan well ahead. So, a year before you graduate, that's a good time to start talking to professors that maybe you had a connection with and see if there's opportunities to work with them. Usually you want to spend kind of a full semester or even a full year working in someone's lab, and then you've got something that looks really good on your resume. Short-term experiences sometimes can happen. We actually have a lot of internships we organize for our forensic science students. I think those are all good. And lastly, I would mention, don't forget about graduate school. That's an option. Ideally, you have a clear idea what you want to do with your life, but a lot of people don't. I didn't, honestly, and I guess I turned out okay. So graduate school opens up more opportunities for you. You're going to have an advanced degree. You get paid more probably. You'll also have more responsibilities, but it also gives you more time to learn about your field and just explore it more. Especially if it's something you like, it's a good option.
Perfect. And then we'll end with Robin and then Betsy.
I would say that, so you may not know as students that recruiters have an entirely different platform on LinkedIn, called LinkedIn Recruiter. And so please make sure that your LinkedIn is current, and there is a button that says, I am interested in new job opportunities. So click that and recruiters will be alerted to that. There you can have up to like 60 different networking groups that you can be a part of on LinkedIn. So if you are a part of a diversity population, we pay special attention to those. Women in engineering, Black Engineers of America, Hispanic Engineers of America. There's a whole, there's multiple organizations that you can be a part of. It will help you to network and it will also help you with resources within your special industry as well. And I believe your career offices can probably help you with that. We connect very closely with our career offices as well. Handshake is a huge tool that we use, so pay close attention to that. As well as, gosh, what else was I going to say? I think that's it primarily. And then those companies sort of re-architecture that. Make a list of what you want in a company and then find who those companies are, do your research there, and then follow those companies because on LinkedIn, it also shows us who's following us and those are more likely to respond to us. So we will reach out to those individuals directly.
Perfect. Betsy?
Yeah, you said, do we network at the supermarket? Yes, we do. Networking, all it is talking to people and sharing about yourself and listening about them. Some of the best contacts I've made were while running a marathon with somebody. I guess 26 miles, they had nowhere else to go but listen to me. And I made a contact, found out, oh, you work in that field as well? I'm trying to get into that field. Or I said to other folks, I'm actually hiring a campus recruiter. You should apply for my job. So professional organizations, your student organizations, that's all great, but just remember every opportunity is a networking opportunity. And I kind of want to address this GPA. I feel like we've been asked this a couple of times. I did not graduate with a 3.0. There, I said it, it's in public. GPA, it does matter, but I want you to understand that it's about you selling your story and yourself. And so I had challenges in my collegiate career that I had to go through. And that's why I maybe did not put forth to get a 3.0. And I shared a little bit about my background and those challenges. And I'm very successful. As a matter of fact, I worked in university for 16 years. So a private, public, 2-year community college with my no 3.0 GPA, because people were able to see that I was more than just that number. So no, don't put it on your resume if you're not in the higher brackets of a GPA, but know that your life is not doomed. You will still find an opportunity. There are folks there that will see the talent and the skills that you do have. And don't disregard graduate degree. Even if you get in on a probational basis, I did, and I showed them, and I wound up graduate degree. I wound up graduating with a 3.8. So, some of us, it takes a little longer than others to get that feel, especially if we're first generation and we're dealing with all those challenges. So again, if you don't have that above a 3.0 GPA, you're not doomed. You're still going to be successful. I'm living proof.
Great. Thanks for adding that in there. So it seems like it matters where you want to go, and business and determination of finishing such a degree as anything in the STEM field shows a great deal. And then as Dr. Slaughter and some others have said, if you're going to go graduate to go to research, then perhaps the GPA matters a little bit more in that context. So know what you're looking for. And of course, like Jeanette added in the chat, some people are looking for that. So in your search, that probably will give you your answers. So I'm going to hand it back over to Dan to close us out. Thank you so much for the panelists for great information.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Hope. And thank you to all the panelists. What a tremendous conversation. Great answers to the questions. Students take these things to heart because they're going to make a difference in you finding a job in the next month or two. And so get to it and utilize the Career Center. I want to direct you to the gethired.unt.edu website. It's been created for the graduating students. It's an important website that pulls a lot of the resources that you need to help you find a job all into one place. So it's a one-stop guide to securing that position. You can also, through that website, get to resume reviews. If you haven't had your resume reviewed, make sure you get your resume reviewed. Have someone take a look at it. We've got people ready to go. Some of the employers, some of the Career Center staff, some of the faculty are all volunteering to take a look at your resume. So get that resume in through the Get Hired website. You can get to it on the showcase section of the website. If you haven't seen it, there are 7 steps to finding a job on there. Take advantage of those resources that you find on there. There's also an opportunity for micro-credentialing through the College of Science. And I'm going to turn it back over to Lee. Lee, would you like to talk about the micro-credentialing?
So yeah, micro-credentials are just a way to add a skill to your resume that employers can look at and learn more information about. We're developing one for scientific instruments. So it's Facilitated Learning of Instrumentation Guided Hands-on Training. That's the FLIGHT acronym. And we're starting it with some instruments. It's a GCMS if you're a chem or bio major. It's the kind of thing that, for example, cosmetics industry, personal care industry, forensic science, those types of employers value the skill. You'll be able to complete a course in 2 to 4 weeks, and then you'll have a digital credential you can share with employers.
Great, thank you. There are other ways as well to get different skill sets. The university has opportunities through Coursera and through LinkedIn Learning that you can utilize to gain some skills, even at a late date, and maybe hone some skills as well through those courses at no charge to you as a student. So take advantage of that. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about the Career Center website. We have a ton of resources at careercenter.unt.edu. If you don't find them on the Get Hired website, you can definitely go to the Career Center website, and there are maybe some additional resources for you there. So lots of things going on. Reach out to your career coaches. They'll help as well. Reach out to your faculty. But there's a lot of people here on the panel and off the panel that are ready and willing to help you find that opportunity. So one last item I need to talk about is we want to get your feedback. We want to find out what you thought of today's program, what you learned in it. So there is a follow-up survey. And so please fill out this survey and give us your thoughts on today's program. But I want to go back to thank the panel and thank all the students for joining us today. This is the first session of its kind, first panel of its kind for the university. We're definitely interested in making sure all of our students get employed at graduation or soon after. So utilize the resources that you've heard about today and get out there and find those jobs. And thank you for coming. And I wish you the best of luck with the rest of the semester.